This book is called Boxes for Katji, and it's written by Candace Fleming. And before we get started, I wanted to read the summary on the flap to find out what the story is about. And right here it says, Mayfield, Indiana, May 1945. I have a box for Katji, a box from America. America, exclaimed Katji. Who would send me a box from America? After World War II, there was little left in Katji's town of Oost in Holland. Her family, like most Dutch families, must go without soap and milk, must patch and repair old worn clothing. Then one spring morning, when the tulips bloomed thick and bright, postman Klein Hunty pedals his bicycle down Katji's cobbled street to deliver a mysterious box from the land of plenty, America. The box had been sent by Rosie, a girl from Mayfield, Indiana, and her package is part of a goodwill effort to help the people of Europe. What's inside Rosie's package so delights Katji that she immediately sends off a letter of thanks, beginning an exchange that swells with so many surprises that the girls, as well as the townspeople of Oost and Mayfield, will never be the same. Inspired by the true experiences of the author's mother, this strikingly original picture book shows how simple seeds of friendship and hope can grow into something extraordinary. Okay, so we know that it took place during the war or after World War II. And we know that the setting is in Holland, in Oost, Holland, and in Mayfield, Indiana. And we also know that the people of Holland are called Dutch people. Okay. After the war, there was little left in the tiny Dutch town of Oost. The townspeople lived on cabbages and seed potatoes. They patched and repatched their worn thin clothing, and they went without soap or milk, sugar, or new shoes. One spring morning, when the tulips bloomed thick and bright, postman Klein Hunty pedaled his bicycle down the cobbled street. Oh ho, he whooped, I have a box for Katji, a box from America. America, exclaimed Katji, who would send me a box from America? The Children's Aid Society, replied the postman. Children in America are collecting and mailing many hard-to-find items to the children of Holland. You, young miss, were lucky to get one. Katji took the box. She rubbed her fingers across the block letters that spelled USA, the land of plenty, she whispered. Katji's mama came to stand beside her. Open it, she urged. Peeling off the brown paper wrapping, Katji pushed back the flaps and pulled out a cake of soap. What luxury, said Mama. No more bathing with gritty homemade stuff for you. And then Katji pulled out the next item, a pair of wool socks. Now that is luxury, said Postman Klein Hunty. Holland has become a sockless country since the war. He rolled up his pant leg to show his bare ankle. Katji dipped into the box again. Out came chocolate. Mama sniffed and sighed. I have not smelled chocolate in years. Postman Klein Hunty smacked his lips. I have not tasted chocolate in years. Neither have I, added Katji. Her mouth watered as she remembered its creamy, rich sweetness. She could hardly wait to take a bite. Then she looked from Mama's smiling face to Postman Klein Hunty's, and Katji made a decision. Quick, before she could change her mind, she broke the bar into pieces and passed them around, and for several moments the three savored the almost forgotten taste. Then Postman Klein Hunty pointed. That box is not empty yet, and Katji reached in and pulled out a letter, and it read, Dear Dutch friend, I hope these gifts brighten your day. Your American friend, Rosie Johnson, 123 Elm Street of Mayfield, Indiana, USA. The postman nodded. Ja. Rosie's box brightened my day. And mine, agreed Mama. I'm going to tell her, decided Katji. I'm going to send her a letter to Rosie. And her letter says, Dear American friend, thank you for the soap and the socks, but most of all, the chocolate. Sugar is not found in Holland these days, so anything sweet is precious. My mother and Postman Klein Hunte very much enjoyed it too. Your Dutch friend, Katji van Stegeran. Weeks passed and summer came, hot and bright. The townspeople of Ost boiled cabbages, dug potatoes, and dreamed of meat and bread. One morning, while Katji and her mama pulled up their tulips, rubbed off the stems, and sorted the bulbs into bags, Postman Klein Hunte came pedaling down the street. She has another one, he hollered. Katji has another box from America. And look, this time it's a little bigger. His shouts drew Mr. and Mrs. Deland and their 5 thin children from next door. Everyone gathered around as Katji eagerly opened the second, bigger box. Johann, look, shrieked Mrs. Deland when the flaps were pulled back. I'm looking, gulped her husband, but I'm not believing my eyes. And from the box, Katji pulled 4 bags of sugar and a letter from Rosie. There they go. And the letter said, Dear Katji, no sugar? Yikes. That's so awful. Mother and I are sending you some. We included some for your postman too. Your friend, Rosie. Sugar, 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 sang Postman Klein Hunte, grabbing the smallest Deland, and he danced with the toddler to the words sweet beat, and Katji made a decision. There is plenty to share, she said. Ah, sobbed Mrs. Deland, dabbing away tears with the corners of her apron. You are too kind. Thank you, Katji. Thank you. Then as the Postman Klein Hunte sang, the children danced and Mrs. Deland sniffled, and Katji divided the sugar. The lights went off in the library because there's no movement. Okay, so here we go. Later, she wrote to Rosie. Dear friend Rosie, so many sweets. How can I ever thank you? I shared the sugar with our neighbor, Mr. and Mrs. Deland. They have 5 children who are skin and bones, and with so little food in Holland, it is hard to keep anyone fed. Your gift has surely helped us. Your friend Katji. And then there's Rosie on her bed reading Katji's letter. Then weeks passed and autumn came, rainy and gray. The townspeople of Ost picked the last of their cabbages and potatoes. They lined their old coats with newspaper to keep out the cold air, and they worried about the coming winter. How will we survive without good food or warm clothing? They asked each other. How will we live? So there they are. Can you imagine having to line your coats with newspaper to keep warm through the whole winter? But remember, this is wartime, or right after wartime. Katji and her mama worried too, but as always, they planted their tulip bulbs in the hardening ground and looked forward to the day the tulip would bloom. They were brushing dirt from their knees when Postman Klein Hunte came stumbling down the street. It is a big one, he shouted, so big I could not bring it on my bicycle. Ja, ja, a big heavy box from America. His excited shouts drew Dr. Boss from his office and the widow Gans from her yard. They drew Miss Osterveld and Schoolmaster DeLue and all 7 of the Delands. There he is, right there with the big box. Everyone crowded around as Katji dug into this 3rd bigger box from America. "Wunderbar!" shouted Dr. Boss when he looked in the box. "Such generosity!" There were cans of meat, boxes of powdered milk, bags of sugar, and a letter from Rosie. So let's find out what the letter says. "Dear Katji, Jeepers, you never guess. Mother told her friends about your last letter, and they told their friends, and our doorbell just kept ringing. 'Send this to Katji,' people kept saying, so we did. Hope this puts some fat on those Deland kids. Love, Rosie." So here's the box. "Oh, it will," cried Mrs. Deland, and Katji made another decision. "There is plenty to share," she said. "Bless you," cried Miss Osterveld. Amid kisses and hugs and heartfelt thank yous, Katji divided the food. Did I skip a page? Yeah, there we go. And later she wrote to Rosie. Here she is. "Dear," or I think that might be Rosie. "Dear Rosie, your box caused much excitement in Ost. Almost everyone came to see what you and your kind townspeople had sent, and everyone left with a share of your gifts. For a small time, it was like a party here. People stopped worrying about the holes in their shoes and their threadbare coats. They did not think of the long, cold winter ahead. You see, your friendship has not only filled our stomachs, it has lifted our spirits as well. Love, Katji." So weeks passed, and winter roared in, snow deep and bitter cold, the worst winter anyone could remember. The townspeople of Oss layered whatever clothing they had. They huddled close to their small fires, ate sparingly from their almost empty cupboards, shivered and prayed. One dark morning, when Katji felt as frozen as the tulip bulbs buried beneath the snow, there came a pounding on her door. She opened it to find Postman Klein Hunte and the townspeople crowded into the yard. "What a delivery I have for you," whooped the postman. He pulled a sled, stacked high with boxes, straight into the house. "So many," gasped Katji. "Ah, but there are more," cried the postman, squeezing his way through the crowd. He returned with another box-stacked sled, and another, and still another. So there's one sled, 2, 3, 4. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. There was barely room for boxes and people as Katji pushed back flaps and pulled out coats, mittens, socks, shoes, scarves, hat, and sweaters. And cakes of soap, chocolate bars, and bags, cartons, and cans of food. So you see the chocolate and chocolate, soap, rice, peanut butter, coffee, flour, cereal, powdered milk, peanut butter. I don't know what that says. Peas, cans of peas, and coats, socks, mittens, shoes, everything that they would need to get through the winter. At the bottom of the very last box, there was a letter from Rosie. "Dear Katji, you won't believe what happened here. Everyone everywhere wants to send a box to you. The school organized a canned food drive. The church organized a clothes drive. Even the local businesses added items to the boxes. We hope there's enough here for you, for all your friends and your neighbors. Love, Rosie." Wow, that's really nice. For several seconds, the townspeople of Oz stood in speechless wonder. Then Katji cried, "There is plenty to share. Hooray!" Postman Kleinhunte danced a jig in his new wool socks. Mrs. Deland wept while buttoning 5 warm coats, and Dr. Boz put down his cans to give the widow Gons a quick, joy-filled kiss. Mama wrapped her arms around Katji. "You have brought us a miracle," she said. "No," replied Katji. "Rosie did." All winter long the boxes kept coming. All winter long the townspeople stayed warm and well fed. And all winter long Katji wrote letters to her American friend Rosie. Slowly the snow melted and the wind. Slowly the snow melted and the wind lost its bite. Each day more and more tulips poked their green tips through the soil, blooming into a sea of pink and yellow, purple and red. One warm morning, Katji said, "It would be nice to send a box to Rosie." "Ja," said Mama, "but what would you send?" Katji smiled as she told her. "It is a good idea," said Mama. "Oh, ho, I like it," agreed Postman Kleinhunty. "We must do it," said the Delans. "Together," added Dr. Boss. And there she goes. She sent it from Katji to Rosie Johnson of Mayfield, Indiana, USA. And so, one sunny, bright morning, Mr. Everett, a mailman, hurried down Elm Street. "I have a box for Rosie," he announced. "A box from Holland." "Holland!" exclaimed Rosie. "What could it be?" Eagerly, she ripped off the wrapping and pulled back the flaps. "So many," gasped her mother. Then Rosie read the letter. "Dear Rosie, we hope these tulip bulbs from Aalst will brighten Mayfield's days. Plant them in the fall and wait for a surprise in the spring. Love, Katji." And there it goes. The end. Okay, let's read a little about the author. Candace Fleming is an author of many popular and award-winning picture books, several of them based on history, including The Hatmaker's Sign, a story by Benjamin Franklin, praised by the Horn Book as a fine piece of historical fiction, and A Big Cheese for the White House, a true tale of a tremendous cheddar, which Kirkus Reviews called a humorous tale with a wide range of appeal. And she lives in Chicago, Illinois. Okay, and then let's read this part. A true story about boxes. This book is based on events that really happened. In May 1945, my mother sent a small box to Europe. Inside was a tube of toothpaste, a pair of socks, a bar of soap, and a note. The note, written in my mother's hard-to-read scrawl, sent good wishes and included her address. Her box was one of thousands that poured into Europe from America that spring. Under the direction of charities such as the Children's Aid Society, Catholic Relief Services, and the American Red Cross, people all across the nation were packing badly needed items into boxes and mailing them to desperately needy Europeans. After World War II, Europe stood in ruins, its buildings bombed, its roads and bridges damaged, its economy destroyed. Poverty spread and food was scarce. Still, Europeans managed to survive the spring, summer, and fall of 1945. And then winter arrived, the worst winter of the century, plunging temperatures below zero, and in some places piling up 30 feet of snow. The frigid weather left many Europeans shivering in their homes, cold, hungry, and hopeless. In Holland, some people were so desperate they were forced to eat their own tulip bulbs. My mother's box found its way to a Dutch family whose oldest daughter was named Katji. It was Katji's father who wrote back asking if my mother could spare a box of powdered milk for the baby, or a bag of sugar, or perhaps a few cans of meat. The pressing needs of Katji's family tore at my mother's heart. What began with one woman and one small box grew into a church-wide effort to support Katji's family through the hard winter. Sugar, powdered milk, coats, all this and more traveled across the Atlantic in a steady flow from Indiana to Holland. Katji's family survived, and when conditions in Holland became When conditions in Holland began to improve, they sent a box to their American friend, a box of tulip bulbs that my mother and others planted all over town. I like to think those tulips are still blooming. Okay, wow, that is one of my favorite books. I can say that. It is one of my all-time favorite books. So here it is.